Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water. Bring it on. I believe that the heart does go on. See, that would be if Limp Bizkit actually did the Titanic song. My heart will go on. Anyways, today's video is about, I don't know, it's about James Cameron movies on 4K. Because, as we know, James Cameron has put a lot of movies out on 4K. And I wanted to cover some of them. Now, I'm going to put a little graph on the screen right now. Now, I have different categories. I have the S tier, which is like top tier that you can actually have. And then I have a rating system of A through F. And then I also have a not available section at the bottom. As you can tell from the bottom, I already have, as you can tell from the bottom, I already have Fire and Ash for Avatar and also the Aliens movie because I have not seen them on 4K yet. I still have to get around to watching them. So if you're here to hear my perspective on those, that's not in this video because I have not yet watched those on 4K. As for all the other movies, I can speak for it. Now, I'm not going to count things that James Cameron produced. They have to be directed by James Cameron and on 4K. So that rules out stuff like Battle Angel Alita. It also has to rule out, you know, Ghosts of the Abyss because that's not necessarily available on 4K. So these have to be movies that are available on 4K that you can buy right now, and they're directed by James Cameron. So, right off the bat, we're going to start with Titanic. Now, a lot of people know I'm a massive fan of Titanic. I've probably talked about it for yonders on this channel. I've talked for it for a long time on this channel that I love Titanic. I have more versions of Titanic than any other movie. I have probably about 20 DVDs, probably about 20 VHS tapes. I probably have more Blu-ray and 4K than I can imagine. I have 2 4Ks of it. I have more than Titanic than I can imagine. But is the transfer any good on 4K? That's what we're here to identify today. I would say it's a good transfer. It's a decent transfer. Now, Titanic does have digital noise reduction. It has digital noise reduction, so if you're one of those people who are a purist and you're like, I don't want any digital noise reduction done to this, what digital noise reduction is, DNR, that's when they essentially remove a lot of grain and stuff. Now, Titanic does still have grain in it, but you can tell there has been some sort of a cleanup done at some points. Now, it's not as evident as other movies on this list, but I would say it's the happy medium. I would say that the way Cameron has allowed this transfer to be done, because obviously, look, Cameron's off making Avatar movies, or was making Avatar movies at the time of Titanic's release, when it was on 4K. So I wouldn't say James Cameron was necessarily involved in the day-to-day making sure that it was what he wanted. I think he said he guided people to restore that movie, do it in a way that aligned with other movies in his catalogue, and I think whoever restored it did a good job. Using DNR to remove a lot of the harsher grain, I would say. Now, some people are purists. I do like grain, but also I understand that sometimes it's not always appealing to watch something super grainy, like obviously I've mentioned 4K 77. We see a raw Star Wars negative out there online. That's very grainy. A lot of people can't sit and watch that. I can, because I'm an idiot for that. But I can say that for the happy medium, Titanic is about as good as you're going to get as in terms of merging grain with DNR. I think it's probably the best you're going to get without actually scrubbing it completely or without, you know, not restoring it. So I think in terms of where that sits, I'm going to give Titanic the S tier, as I am, because I'm a bit biased because it's my favorite movie. But outside of that, I want to talk about why I'm giving it that S tier, because a lot of people just rank them in these systems and they don't actually talk about why they're ranking them there. It's a good movie, for starters, it's a really good movie, but also, I want to talk about, it's a decent transfer. It's like, I can't knock it for anything. It's like, you can zoom in and say, oh, well, there's that little bit of thing where the detail, they've scrubbed the tiny bit, the too much detail there, yeah, if there was not too much detail there, now they've scrubbed it. But also, when you're watching the movie and it's like, for a single frame of the movie, you're focusing in on that single frame, whereas the overall movie, you're enjoying the experience, it's up there. Like, it's a good experience. I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with that movie on 4K. I would say it's probably one of the defining, shining examples of probably James Cameron's best work on 4K, and what he could do with the rest of the catalogue if he actually took that approach. So I'm giving that the S tier for a reason. Now, I've got a list over here because I'm going to forget all these movies. The next I'm going to rank is The Abyss. The Abyss is one of his probably earlier movies around the ocean. Now, obviously, at that time, he had done Terminator and all that, but we know James Cameron's love for the ocean has been evident throughout his whole filmmaking career. He's made a lot of documentaries about Titanic. I think he did one about the Bismarck. I think he's done Ghosts of the Abyss. He's done Aliens of the Deep. Like, he's obsessed with the ocean. He's done that cave one in like where they go into the cave and it gets flooded or whatever. I forget what it's called. I forget what that movie's called. He done Ocean Challenger or whatever. He went to the bottom of the Mariana Trench for some reason. But we know he's obsessed with the ocean. So this is one of his earlier movies with the ocean, if you're not counting Piranhas. Okay, now that all that's out of the way. The Abyss. Where do we rank The Abyss on 4K? Now, The Abyss has digital noise reduction. Same as Titanic, same as the rest of this catalogue. Cameron uses digital noise reduction. It's pretty evident across his filmography that he uses that to clean up the movies. Now, I am going to say something controversial. I actually preferred the grain removal in this one. Honestly, for the Abyss, something we haven't seen since the DVD days on a physical media format. On 4K, I don't know what look, it's always best to have a proper scan of it and, you know, not scrubbed or whatever. I understand. Preferably, you do want it to be in line with the actual film reel as it sits. I know people want that. I know that's why 2001 works on 4K. 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of the best 4K transfers there are. Same with Interstellar. Because you want to see the grain. You want to see how it was shot. You want to see the film elements. But stick with me. Stick with me on this one. There are a lot of people, because it wasn't available in digital for the longest time, it was only available on DVD after, you know, there's Generation Z and Generation Alpha who may not have seen that movie until it came out on 4K. So it's about reintroducing those younger generations to a movie that is obviously older. How do you do it? Because a lot of younger generations are not going to sit there and care about grain. They're not going to care about detail. They're not going to care about something that looks like it was shot in the 1980s. They're going to care about, oh, okay, it's a movie. How do you get them in the door to watch that movie? You make it look new. And for this movie, I would say this is another happy medium movie. I would say Cameron's got it right with this one in terms of he's taken the same approach as Titanic with this one. It's kind of DNR, but it's not DNR. It's like, there's still details there. You can still tell, I mean, yes, if you zoom in on certain frames, if you freeze frame one singular frame, there'll be people who call out, okay, this is where it is there, and look at this, and if I go in with my spectrometer, then I can see every little detail. No, that's not how you watch a movie. You watch it in sequence. You watch the whole scene. So when you're watching the movie, you don't notice it. I'm going to say it. You don't notice the DNR. Now, you do notice that there's not as much grain as there should be. You do notice that. But you don't notice it with the characters. You don't really notice that there's not as much grain. You don't really notice. So, is it something that I think is an S tier? No, I don't think The Abyss is up there with Titanic. I think this is kind of the next happy medium down. I think it merges the two, but also it sets a precedent of making DNR the default for a lot of movies. So I'm going to give this an A tier. It's still a good transfer. You're not going to really notice that. You're not going to really notice that when you're watching it. Hey, that should have a bit more grain, or I should be able to see what's her name, Gina from Scarface. I forget her name, but you know, I should be able to see more of her hair detail, and I should be able to see more of this. No, I think for what we have, it's a good transfer. When I'm watching it, I don't notice that stuff. I mean, yes, I notice it on certain releases, and I'm going to get to one of those releases soon, but for this one, I didn't notice it. I watched it, and I didn't notice it. Now, I know I haven't watched Aliens yet on 4K. I am going to get to it at some point. That's going to be in a new series I do when I do the relaunch. But I hear Aliens do the same thing, and they take a similar approach of merging the two. So I hear that that's more aligned with like the Abyss and Titanic's approach of restoring movies. But for The Abyss, I think The Abyss get it right. I think The Abyss get the Abyss kind of don't go overkill with it. If that makes sense. They don't go overkill. I mean, when you're watching it, you're not going to notice it. But they don't go overkill with it, which is important. Because the next movie is True Lies. You know where I'm going with this. You know where I'm going with it. This, True Lies, should not have been that DNR'd. I'm just going to say it right now. And the fact that they put certain scenes with close-ups of Arnold Schwarzenegger and then a scene right next to it where he's looking like a wax figure. So they put the one with high detail there where they don't really do much DNR to it, and then one where they've absolutely DNR'd it to death right next to it. It's very noticeable. And even in the opening sequence of the movie, it's so noticeable that there's DNR done to this movie. Now, it doesn't hurt the overall enjoyability of True Lies. True Lies is still a great movie. If you've never seen it before and you only have the means to get the 4K, then the 4K is good for you. Also, if you don't want it to look like something that was shot or released 25 odd years ago with the DVD, 4K is still good. So let's get that out of the way right now. 4K is still good. But, and that's a big but. I like big butts and I dare not lie. No, but it is a big but. So, True Lies is kind of in this weird space of, do you want enough DNR? I'm just going to quickly press that. But it has enough DNR, right? But it's on that borderline. It's kind of, it goes overkill at points. It doesn't need to be that DNR'd. It doesn't need to be as digital noise reductioned as it actually is. Why did they let it be that DNR'd? Like, it could have taken the Titanic approach. It could have taken the Abyss approach. James Cameron has enough knowledge around new technologies and film and all that to understand scrubbing a image is not great. And this is why in the past decade, Cameron has really dropped on my rankings of directors, because he has kind of allowed a lot of his back catalogue to be gutted with these DNR transfers and phoned in transfers, I call them. Now, it might not be James Cameron necessarily viewing it himself, because as I said, he was focused on Avatar. He was focused on filming 3 Avatar movies, or 2 Avatar movies back to back. So his mind was going there, and he probably just said, just do whatever you want and I will sign off and just go and do it. We'll put it out and we'll get it on 4K. So why do I rank True Lies? This obviously has DNR. Why do I rank it lower than, The Abyss and Titanic? Because this is borderline poor. This is borderline. This is like still an enjoyable movie, but it's borderline. You notice it. You really notice it. The DNR is done so excessively that you notice it. And there is nothing worse than when you're getting into a movie, being taken out of it by, oh, they've screwed this scene up. Oh, no, they did that. Oh, no, they've done this to the movie. Why did they do that? There's nothing worse than analyzing that over, hey, this is a great movie. Hey, the plot could have been better here. Hey, this could be better. Oh, yeah, the movie plot. You should be focused on the movie when you're watching it, not the actual what's been done to the transfer. How did they screw this one up? So for that reason, what tiers do I have here? I'm going to see what tiers I have. I have A, B, C, D, and E. I don't have an E rank. I have an F rank. So I have A, B, C, D, and F. And then I have an A and an S. It's definitely not getting an S. Definitely not getting an A. I would say this would probably be a C rank all day. Because it's borderline. There are scenes in here where you do enjoy it. There are scenes where action movies moving really fast, you don't notice so much DNR done in the action sequences. But you can tell it's been done. And that takes you out of the movie. So, I want to go through the 2 Avatar movies I have seen. Now, I haven't seen Ash and Fire. It's a new release. I don't have my hands on 4K yet. But I have seen Avatar and Avatar The Way of Water on 4K. So, let's start with Avatar. Obviously, shot back about 2009, or would have been shot before that, probably from 2005 onwards, because digital. Obviously, the thing with digital is that it does offer, like, not as much grain. It does offer you ways to get visual effects looking great. Now, you do notice the age of this movie a little bit when you're watching it. You do notice it on 4K. But it holds up surprisingly well, the first one. It really holds up well. So, given that it's a 2009 movie, and it still holds up relatively well on 4K, I'm going to give this an A. Like, it holds up relatively well. Like, if you're a huge fan of Avatar and you're buying that 4K, you're not going to be disappointed with the 4K. It's an extension of what you would see in cinemas. Now, obviously, it doesn't have 3D. Obviously, 3D TVs don't really exist anymore. So I understand there's no really 3D 4K transfers. I understand this. You know, the preferred version would always be a 4K. You know, or like a 3D version where it's more accurate to what was in cinemas. But because 3D is not really a technology being focused on anymore, it sits in that weird spot. But also, Way of Water. Let's get to Way of Water. It's a new movie. What can I say? It's gonna look great on 4K. It's The Way of Water. It's a new movie from like what, 2 years ago. It's gonna look great on 4K. I'm just saying that. I've watched it. It's a 4K movie. What can you say? I don't know. I think it might have had HDR playing, or like, I don't know if it has Dolby in it. It might have been Dolby or HDR10. I don't know. It had Dolby or HDR10 or something, but you could tell the colors popping. And it's an action movie, so Cameron back to his action. Leaving the plot aside, because I know a lot of people focus on the plot of Avatar and like, oh, this, then, it's just Pocahontas and whatever. I understand people focus on that aspect of it. Oh, it's dances with wolves. Outside of that, the visuals of Avatar are immaculate. They are Cameron's passion project. This is something he sat on since 1995, apparently, and you know, focusing on this series now. Cameron obviously is going to make more Avatar movies. That's a given. Each movie hit $1 billion, I think. But he's got to do it cheaper. I think that's why Disney are not necessarily running out saying, let's commission the next $2 billion James Cameron movie. They're probably saying, hey, let's do it for like 800,000 or like 1 billion. Let's do it $1 billion and we can maybe make back 1.3, or let's do it for like 800,000. That's the happy medium. Maybe 600,000 if we can push it. But I don't think, look, if you're buying an Avatar movie, whether it's, I'm putting obviously the first Avatar in A category, I'm putting this one in S tier with Way of Water, because they're Avatar movies. They're 4K. They're basically shot with 4K in mind. So they're going to look great. They are going to look great. Obviously, I'm putting Avatar #1 down in the A category because it's a little bit older and it does show its age a little bit, just because of the just because visual effects in 2009 still show their age. It's advanced a lot, and when you watch Way of Water, you can tell how far it's advanced. So it's good that they've kind of not really altered too many visual effects from the original, but also you can tell the contrast. So that's where I set Avatar. The next one is, we'll go with Terminator 1 first. We'll go with Terminator 1. No, listen, we're going to go with Terminator 1 first. We're going to do Terminator 1 first, because you know where I'm going with the last one. So with Terminator 1. Another one, this is like True Lies. They have absolutely done a lot of DNR to this movie. But, and it is a big but, and I cannot lie, I don't mind it. I think this is where this comes down to preference. With the Terminator on part 1 on 4K, I prefer the 4K version. Look, there is DNR done. You can tell there's DNR done, but there's still a lot of grain in the movie as well. Like, you can tell, like, whatever process they've used, it's not as gutted as True Lies. So it's a weird one. It kind of sits in that weird category of, it's gutted, but it's not gutted so much that it's not enjoyable or it's taking you out of the movie. When I was watching the Terminator on 4K, I was watching it and I was like, yep, this is the Terminator. This is what I've seen for decades. Obviously a little bit less detail, obviously, but I'm still enjoying the movie. I mean, it's still the Terminator. I'm still enjoying it. Oh, yep, it's basically as it should look. Obviously, some people have called out the colors on part 1. I think some people have called out a few of the aspects might be changed. I'm not necessarily noticing that when I'm watching it. But I think the Terminator is a strong B category. It's not as gutted as True Lies, but it's a happy medium. It's like, it's not really gutted, But you can still watch it and be into the movie and not realize if you weren't paying attention to it. You wouldn't be able to sit there if you're enjoying the movie and into that movie and being like, yeah, let's watch this. Let's watch when he's going into that thing and Sarah Connor, when he's going into that bar. You can get into that. And it's not going to take you out of the movie when you're saying, oh, look at what they did to Arnold, or look what they did to this scene. Unless you're a film snob, but look, you're going to enjoy that movie. If you have it on 4K, you're going to be like, yep, okay, I can probably stop watching the Blu-ray version at this point. I can probably get rid of the Blu-ray version if I wanted to. I don't think people are going to be necessarily saying, oh, I'm going to keep my Blu-ray for that one little detail. No. I think Terminator on 4K is good. It's not as good as it should be. It's not A category. It's not True Lies category of being a bit lower. But it's respectable. It's very respectable. Is there anything else we forgot? I'm just thinking, is there any other movies on 4K that I forgot from James Cameron? But how has the day been, guys? Like, jump in the comments and let me know. Oh, okay, I will get to it. I will get to it. Haroldo, we have to talk about it again. We have to talk about it again. Battle Angel Leader. No. No. Fine. The Terminator 2. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. You already know where I'm ranking it. You already know where I'm ranking it. I haven't even said it yet, and you already know where I'm ranking it. This is how not to do a restoration. This is how not to do it. It's as gutted as True Lies, even more than True Lies. They change aspects of the movie, like George Lucas with Star Wars. This is not how you do a restoration, in any sense of the means. You notice it, 100% you notice it. When you're watching the movie, now some people will say, oh, but I still enjoy the movie. Cool, you enjoy the movie. For most fans of Terminator 2, whether you're going in for the 10th time, or the 100th time, or the 1000th time, if you've watched Terminator 2 before, and you have that nostalgia for it, or you have that memory of what it should look like, it's noticeable. You know, they filmed the thing in California, you notice those sunsets are now blue. You notice that there's wax figure Arnold Schwarzenegger. You notice there's no grain in it. You notice when you're watching the movie how poorly and rushed this transfer was. Now, Cameron has defended it. Cameron has defended it. But this is one of those movies that if Cameron was ever to revisit, I think he could take a happy medium, as he did with like Titanic, but merge it in with like The Abyss. But maybe if he has to push it into that category of Terminator 1 of like not so over the top, if he had to go back and revisit it. Because, look, Cameron does care about the fans. For the longest time we thought he didn't care because he was focused on Avatar. Obviously, when you're making billion-dollar movies, you're more focused on getting it in on that budget, you know? You're making new technology. You're developing film cameras to film a movie underwater with motion capture. So I understand why things like this get through. And I'm not knocking Cameron for that. For the longest time, I thought it was Cameron. But this is also... Terminator 2 was one of the first Cameron movies to come out on 4K. And I think he learned a lot. You see it with Titanic, you see it with The Abyss, you see it with... Obviously, True Lies was a bit in that medium where he was still figuring things out. Terminator came out a bit after that, and it's kind of still the happy medium. But you already know why I'm ranking Terminator 2. You already know. It's the F category all day. It is 100,000,000% the F category. This is not how you do a restoration of a film. This is not how you do it. And if the Lucas versions of Star Wars are in the same F category to me, you don't ruin the movie by changing colors. Yes, you can do DNR if you must do DNR. Don't go so excessive that it changes the vibe of the movie. The movie should be preserved in the way that, look, film doesn't look great on 4K. I know some people are purists and say, oh yeah, we want the grain. Yes, we want the grain. But if you're a new fan, I understand not all new fans want grain. I understand it. There are people who will not sit there and watch a grainy movie. So I understand it's an incentive to do DNR. I understand it's incentivized to use DNR. I understand it. But not at the risk of gutting the movie. Not at the risk of, hey, now Arnold Schwarzenegger looks horrible at certain points because this has changed, and then those California sunsets that are so iconic in the original cuts are changed to the point where they're blue now. Those beautiful orange hue on Arnold's face is now blue for some reason. They've just changed it to an ordinary shot. So how do you watch Terminator 2 then? Because this is the question. For most of this list, I would say, because I've got it written down here, I've just got a little thing here so I'm keeping track of it. I'm not really referring to anything, that's just what I'm looking at. But how do you watch Terminator 2? People say the Lionsgate from 2016 is a great transfer. I have not seen the 2016 Lionsgate. I can't get my hands on it. But I know it's out there. I know that people refer to that one as probably the best you can watch in terms of Terminator. That's probably the one you want. For me, I have the Skynet edition. I was going to say Stargate edition, but I have the Skynet edition. When I watch that, I don't really notice, and I like the Skynet edition because I have three different versions of the movie on that disc. So I have the longer versions, I have the director's cuts, whatever they are, whatever cuts that Cameron called them. I have three different versions of that movie. So I can choose a version, and yes, you're not going to get the best sort of look. It's going to still be, look, it's an older transfer. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but that version's horrible for this reason. It's three versions of the movie. It's accessible. It's readily available. I think the Skynet edition is the one most people would probably gravitate towards. If you don't like the 4K and you've heard about the 4K, then the Skynet edition is probably the one that most people would say, yep, that's good enough. I've also got a HD DVD version of it. I've never watched it on HD DVD. Actually, I might have watched part of it on HD DVD. I think I've watched like half the movie on it just to test it, just to see what it looked like. And the HD DVD version is phenomenal. You can tell, like, when they did the Blu-ray transfer at the same time, it looks like HD DVD handles it better. I don't know if they're using the same transfer, but HD DVD does handle it better. But this is why you need to get a 4K transfer right, because fans who love that movie, who have nostalgia about that movie, won't gravitate towards the 4K if it's so poorly done. And I'm not knocking James Cameron for that one. Cameron has defended this thing, but you can tell he's learnt from it. You can tell he learnt from it. You can tell when he did Terminator 1 that he learnt from it. Yes, it's still not as good as it should have been, but you can tell he learnt from it. But yeah, Terminator is an F all day. That is an F all day, Terminator 2. Like, that is something that needs to be restored. And maybe he goes back and visits it. Maybe now that he's done with Avatar for a bit, I was going to call it Aliens, but now that he's done with, I was going to call it Blue Aliens, but you know, now that he's done with Avatar for a little bit until Disney approves the next budget for the next one if he makes it, I think what he needs to do now is maybe look at Terminator 2 again. Just look at what he's learned since the initial transfer, and it's not unprecedented anymore to re-release a movie with a new transfer. I mean, we've seen Jurassic Park get a re-release with modern things. It's got Dolby in there. Now, people say they're still using the same transfer. I am going to check out both side by side, the 2018 4K and also the recent 2025 release. I'm going to check out both. I have both now in my collection, so I am going to check out both when I relaunch the channel, or like reboot, not reboot, I'm not deleting everything, but relaunch. But you know, it's not unprecedented. American Pie, Mad Max get these sort of releases. Like, there's Kino Lorber one out there. There's also a thing. And also Cameron, if he doesn't want to do it himself, I mean, he could very much hand out that right to like Kino Lorber or Criterion or such. Or Arrow, you know. I think Cameron could be very smart in saying, look, I have to focus on other things. But also that comes down to 20th Century Fox doesn't exist anymore. So, oh, actually, Lionsgate got it. So who owns it? Studio Canal? Who owned Terminator 2 exactly? I think it might be Studio Canal, or it might be sitting in the Universal archive. I'm just trying to think who actually owns the movie outright as like the film negative, as it was shot. Who would own that? Where would that be? Would that be in the Paramount? No, not Paramount Vault. It would probably be in the Universal Vault. I don't know, but that's something that could be very much benefited from getting that new transfer. That could be something that could benefit from, hey, this looks great, this looks phenomenal, because Cameron has said, yep, look, we didn't know as much about DNR like we did, but we didn't know when we were putting out 4K that it was going to be that bad, or it was going to be like that. So we've learned a lot with doing Terminator, we've learned a lot from doing Titanic, we've learned a lot from the happy mediums with doing, like, you know, The Abyss, that there is a certain happy point where people can accept, we won't change the color, but we'll change this, this, and this, and we think it'll blend together well. Obviously, he needs to put the colors back. He should put the colors back as he was. But yeah, Terminator 2 shouldn't be an F. It's one of the best movies of all time. And look, if you're just seeing it for the first time and you only have access to the 4K, watch it. I mean, look, if you're experiencing it for the first time, you're not going to notice it as much, so you can probably get away with watching the 4K. Or if you're watching it and you don't remember what the actual film should look like, then you're going to be fine with watching that 4K. But if you do know that, hey, one of the big appeals of this movie is those California sunsets. One of the big appeal of those movies is the action sequences and seeing Arnold's face, like especially when they're doing that operation thing on he's taking the chip out, like you see a close-up of Arnold. The mirror sequence, even with Lyndall Hamilton and her sister in the mirror, I think Leslie Hamilton, and you see the thing, because obviously it was done with twins. If you didn't know, Linda Hamilton was twins with her sister Leslie. And so you see that sequence in the mirror where she's looking in the mirror and obviously it's her twin on the other side. There's a lot of twin magic in this. I don't know if it's twin magic. I'm obviously wearing a red cap. You can look, but you can't touch. I'm referring to the Bella twins, if you don't know. A lot of twin magic. Yeah. What can I say? That's the Cameron catalogue on 4K. That's how kind of weird it is. All Cameron movies should be an S tier, or most of them. They should all be S tier or high A tier, or even B tier, like if it has to be a bit further down. There should never be one that reaches into C and below. But for some reason, you know, I obviously mentioned that in C and below, we have True Lies below that line, and we obviously have Terminator 2 below that line, obviously. I don't know if they need to be revisited, but also, look, the fact that we're actually getting them on 4K, for True Lies, you didn't get a 4K release for 2 decades of that, since DVD. You couldn't even stream it digitally. For The Abyss, same deal. The fact that we actually got them on 4K and we have those now, what can I say? I have to say at least thank you to James Cameron for that, because he didn't have to put those out. And also Disney, because I think Disney owned some of those movies, you know, they didn't have to put those out either. True Lies definitely doesn't fit with the political climate of political correctness. I understand that. So there's a big understanding that Disney didn't even have to put that out. I've seen people trying to restore True Lies, maybe trying to put like the old DVD version over the top and overlaying it, so add some detail back for the digital noise reduction. Maybe that's a happy medium for restoration out there. Maybe it's you split the diff, or have that, like if you're talking unofficial, like despecialized sort of things, that's what people could possibly do. But I don't know. Disappointing that Terminator 2 is that low though. Do you think it's time to end the video, Haroldo? I think it's time to let it end. I mean, we've been going for what, 34 minutes? I think it's time to end the video, yeah? Yeah. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. That's my Cameron rankings. I'll put a couple of end screens right here. And you can watch all of them. You can watch none of them. You can call me an idiot in the comments. You can tell me what you want. You might get blocked if you call me an idiot, but I'm brutal with my blocks. But yeah. What do you think of the Cameron? How would you rank Cameron's system? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.